What up, this is Rama screen at the LA Film Festival 2018 again. How's it going, everybody? And I'm here about this new movie called Softness of Bodies. And I'm here with the director, Jordan, and the star of the film, Dasha. How you doing? Right. I've seen the film. Fantastic. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So talk to my fans about the inspiration behind the story.
Oh, do I hold this? Or do
Yeah, sure. No worries.
The inspiration behind the story, well, the film story kind of comes from my relationship with Dasha. We met here in LA, and we became friends quickly and wanted to work together, and we sort of developed this, I guess, rapport of sarcasm and misery and just dealing with our daily lives in LA. And I was also living in Berlin at the time, going back and forth. And so this story is sort of an imagined composite character between our experiences here in LA and my experience while living abroad in Berlin.
So let me ask you this: you shot this movie in Berlin, correct? Yes. And I noticed in the film, because reading the synopsis, I came in thinking like, oh, I guess I'm about to see a foreign language film, but apparently it's both English and German. Talk a bit about the decision behind that.
Oh, well, the community in Berlin that I'm mostly focusing on, the kind of backdrop is the expat community within Berlin, sort of this expat community of artists that are living in Berlin that go there to pursue the arts and live more cheaply than here in the United States. I sort of fell into that community while I was staying there, and that was sort of the that's kind of a thing there. It's like everybody is speaking English in this German-speaking city, whereas like a German will go into a new coffee shop in Neukölln and try to speak in German, and they won't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, a big running joke is that Charlotte doesn't speak basically any German, despite having lived there for almost a year. And we don't really speak German, but yeah, that's very much like a phenomenon of our milieu, sort of, that Americans move to Berlin to, like Jordan said, pursue artistic livelihoods. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Dasha, your character loves poems or poetry, I guess I could say. Do you love poems and poetry? What's your approach to this character?
Well, the poetry, Charlotte's poems are my own poems, some of which were written specifically for the movie, others that I had written before. When I met Jordan, I guess I sent him probably a lot of my poems. And we used those sort of as a foundation maybe for Charlotte's character. I don't know if you feel that way. I have a very performative approach to poetry. I think that it's something that should be like heard or listened to as opposed to read, or at least in the way that I write it. It's like, because I'm an actress as well, the way that I perform my poetry is also like an element of it. And so I feel like I almost write poetry like with already as a character, and sort of this dry, like sardonic voice that Charlotte also shares.
I was actually, the stereotype here in America, poetry club, the snapping of the fingers, as you know. I was waiting for that scene. I was like, okay, there's something different that we didn't get to see that, but that's cool. So let me ask about also to your character. She also has this kleptomania problem. And there were some scenes some rough scenes with the security guards. Could you talk a bit about shooting those sequences? How challenging were they?
Yeah, sure. We had some challenges. Maybe, yeah. Well, I'm gonna let Dasha take this one, and then I'll respond.
Sure. Well, I was really excited to get roughed up by security guards. But I had a friend of mine got caught shoplifting once and ran for it, as Charlotte does. And I remember her describing it to me as like she ran faster than she ever had in her entire life. Like you were really running with like all of your being. And I wish that I hadn't done that because it really physically destroyed me. And we had to shoot the next day, and I was like, my whole body hurt. And I wish that I could have like figured out a way to run and make it look. Maybe if I was a better actor, I would have like looked like I was physically exerting myself without actually having to do it. But that was probably the hardest. The running wasn't as hard as the next day for me. You want to?
Yeah. I mean, what was funny, I feel like what was really terrible about that was our outfit choice on that one, because you know, I loved the wardrobe in the film, and Marina did a great job, but we picked this totally non-breathable fabric for Dasha to run around all day in, and I felt really bad because we kept having to do more takes and things would keep happening, and every time Dasha would look at me like this has to be the last one, and I'm like, sure, and then I'd have to tell her that we're gonna do it. It was tough.
We shot that scene in the subway where Isabella Johnny's character in Possession has her like satanic miscarriage, and which I was really excited about when we were like location scouting for it. And then that day I was so tired, and I was so tired of wearing that I remember like trying to rip that velvet bodysuit off, and literally it was like a possession. Like I felt demonic and like demonically tired and upset. I was like screaming in Russian at Marina, my costume designer. It would, yeah, very upsetting question.
Well, if it makes any consolation, I was rooting for your character. I was like, come on, run. I was like, don't run down the escalator, just slide down it. You know, just like that would have been like, poof. She would have been gone just like that. So can you talk a bit about the contrast or the difference between art and maybe people's appreciation of art between here and in Berlin? Is there any difference? Is there more appreciative there?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I would say like the art communities kind of around the world have a dialogue with each other, you know, like in LA, New York, and in Berlin and in Paris, and there's yeah, I mean the art communities speak to each other, but I do feel like a lot of people were going to Berlin strictly for like kind of financial reasons, because you could pursue art and also have a more affordable lifestyle.
Art is in like a lot of European countries, like Germany, art is subsidized by the state. Like the government gives. Yeah, the government fund. There's more government funding for art projects, film especially, and sometimes that's, you know, reflected in the quality of those projects. I think because people don't have to work as hard to get stuff made, but not always. And I think in general, it's like a more robust sort of. People appreciate it more just because there's more resources and more robust like financing models in European countries, which we don't have in America.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's. I know this movie takes place in Berlin, and but it's in a place like Paris, for instance, where I'm living now. It's the whole city is involved in the arts. Everyone goes to the cinema. Everyone goes to the latest exhibitions. Everybody's talking about them. There is more of it is more part of the culture there, I think, for everyone to go you know, look at the latest like art exhibitions than it is here. I don't know if that answers your question.
That answers my question. I want to ask or dig further about your character, as far as the story goes, because she goes through a lot, right? She's trying to keep her head above water, and she's trying to get by with her poetry or art, if you will. and she's now, having problem with the law. Not want to go too much details for my fans, but talk a bit about, as far as script goes, like how many situations when you come up with the story did you want to pile on her and make sure that she struggles quite a lot as an artist? Because we all know the term hungry or starving artist. I've been there. So talk a bit about why did you want to flesh that out for Dasha's character?
Right. I think as you said, I think you said earlier, like she's a difficult character to root for, but you ended up rooting for her when she was like running, right? I did my best to have a nice balance between the narcissistic acts and also the suffering and the repercussions. I think that at least that was the attempt, like the balance to get the audience to feel for the character and ultimately be with her and support her. That was the intention, at least.
Especially the lost shoes as the MacGuffin.
Right, like the missing shoes is the MacGuffin. It depends on how much you want to read into it, right? I mean, like, why does she take these shoes? For me, I think when I look back at it, it's there's a lot of hurt there. There's like hurt and jealousy that she's not getting the attention she feels she deserves in this relationship, and it represents something much more. Yeah.
I think that her kleptomania is it's a way of like settling scores, so to speak. Like she feels so like downtrodden and vulnerable so much that she feels entitled to take things because she's given so little materially otherwise.
As I'm winding down to my final questions, we're at LA Film Festival celebrating independent cinema. Talk a bit about having gone through the experience of making this film. What are the challenges and the joys of independently making Softness of Bodies, and what advice do you have for filmmakers out there?
I would say the greatest joy is when you're doing like truly independent cinema, you get to do what you want. You really get to tell the story that you want to tell, for better or for worse. And that is cool, but it's also scary, but it's great. And the challenges are that it's extremely difficult because you don't have enough money and it's so hard. And I was just talking to a friend 2 days ago at breakfast who made her first feature just a year ago, and she was talking about nobody really understands until they go through that endeavor of like making that first independent feature. Like the lack of sleep alone is it's brutal. And I guess for me and giving advice to other filmmakers is what was really interesting, the difficult parts, it wasn't just the shooting, it was every single part after the shooting. Submitting to festivals, getting it ready, like publicity, like things like that. Not that this isn't a pleasure, but it's just, there is so much, and I feel like I went about everything totally wrong. Like I did every step incorrectly, and that's okay. But the more you can prepare yourself for that, I think the better you'll come out on the other end.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last question, if I may. What do you want the audience to take away from, I apologize, your character's name again? Charlotte, there you go. Charlotte's journey. And is she a cautionary tale? Either one of you.
I see Charlotte as kind of, I hate the idea of good or bad characters. I just think of her as a human character, and I just hope that the audience can find something to relate in the character. They can find something about her that they relate to. You know, it's not about labeling her or even necessarily being with her, even though that would be cool. It's just finding something that they can hone in on and, you know, empathize. That's what I would really like with the character.
Yeah, I don't think she is a cautionary tale per se. I think she's, you know, a flawed person and like almost an anti-hero, if you want to call her that. But I think Charlotte would mainly want people to like think she's hot. And I hope that people do think she's hot.
Well, the movie is hot, definitely for sure, and her character as well. Well, thank you so much, you guys, and congratulations again. Yeah.